Hey y'all, it's Kosta. I help people break the system to build a better future. Today we're talking about why some states can't afford to get sick. As you know, the United States has the most complex healthcare system in the world. What you might not know is 1 in 5 get their healthcare paid for by Medicaid. However, not all state Medicaids are created equal, and this is why you can't afford to get sick in my home state of Tennessee. If you look at the states with the lowest life expectancies, the highest infant mortality rates, and the most preventable hospital admissions, they all have something in common. A sizable portion of their population doesn't have health insurance, and they haven't expanded Medicaid. So unlike our Medicare system, which covers all Americans 65 and older, states can decide who gets coverage and what gets covered in their version of Medicaid. There are a few groups of people the federal government says states have to cover: children and pregnant women and families below a certain income, plus some seniors and people with disabilities. But for anybody else, states get to decide who qualifies. So let's take California, for example. A single person who makes $10,000 a year qualifies for Medi-Cal, the state's Medicaid program. When they go to a doctor, they show their Medi-Cal card and pay a $4 copay. If they get a prescription, they pay $4. The doctor sends the bill to Medi-Cal, the state of California pays half, and the federal government pays the other half. This split varies by state. So the federal government would pay a higher share for the same doctor's visit in Alabama because federal payments are calculated based on the state's per capita income. But the same person making $10,000 a year won't qualify for the Texas version of Medicaid. In fact, if you're a non-disabled adult with no children, it's impossible to qualify for Medicaid in Texas, period, no matter how much money you make. States also get to decide what services get covered by their versions of Medicaid. So each state gets to decide whether you get dental coverage, vision coverage, physical therapy, even hospice or end-of-life care. One of the goals of the Affordable Care Act was to limit some of this state-to-state variability by making Medicaid available to everyone below a certain income threshold, no matter where they lived. But the Supreme Court struck down that part of the law. 31 states and the District of Columbia made Medicaid available to anyone in their state who made less than about $17,000 a year. In exchange, the federal government reimbursed those states for the added cost of covering more people. Now, some governors in states that didn't expand Medicaid said they were worried about long-term costs. Although the federal government was paying for 100% of the cost of expanding Medicaid at first, by 2020, that share dropped to 90%. This Medicaid expansion was paid for by a tax increase, one that only affected the top 5% of income earners. Medicaid costs are rising. They made up 10% of federal and state budgets 30 years ago, and today that share is more than 25%. Part of that increase is a reflection of the rising costs of healthcare as a whole. So healthcare spending went from about 9% of GDP in 1980 to 17% in 2013. I want to know your thoughts, and if you agree with your state's position on Medicaid, how it's affected your health and those around you. Every American deserves affordable health care for the welfare and safety of our country. Is expanding Medicaid in all states the best way to protect our health care, or do you believe there's a better way? Let me know in the comments section below.